FDA officials or relatives or acquaintances of FDA officials come to see me in Hanover. You wouldn't believe this, or directors of the American Medical Association, AMA, or American Cancer Association, or the residents of Orthodox Cancer Institutes. That's the fact. Oxygen, ozone therapy researcher and ambassador, Ed McCabe states, "Let's compare medical ozone therapy with prescription drugs." In 1978 the FDA reported 1.5 million were hospitalized in the USA due to the side effects of medication. On the other hand, medical ozone has been legally used in clinics worldwide on a daily basis since the 40s, and in Germany 644 ozone therapists were surveyed, and they reported 384,775 patients had received 5,579,238 ozone treatments. The side effect rate was only 0.0007% during 5.5 million dosages. Yet, each year approximately 140,000 people in the U.S. die from prescription drug usage. To this day researchers maintain that the exact causes of and cures for cancer are unknown, whilst many others who claim that they do know are frequently the victims of a conspiracy of suppression by governmental agencies and corporate business interests. It is vital that we understand the true nature of disease if we are to be effective in its eradication. It is imperative that we use the total sum of our knowledge to combat disease and work together as a multidisciplinary and society, not an isolated, self-interested units. We must open our eyes to the realities and seek the best of conventional and unconventional medicine. We must concentrate on why we are ill, and not simply seek to eradicate symptoms of disorders which we often see as inevitable. Disease is not our natural state, it is not inevitable. It is an outward physical display of disharmony whose cause is far more significant than its symptoms. The responsibility for health lies with all of us, not only with doctors or governments. How many millions flock to the doctor and expect some treatment for a symptom, caring not for the cause, but seeking only the relief of discomfort? And who is to blame them? They are victims of the pharmaceutical conspiracy too. According to these scientists and medical practitioners who find employment within the system, there is little evidence to give credence to any form of medicine other than their own. Or so they and we are told. They seem deaf to the testimonies of the healers and the healed who stand before them as living proof of the power of mind over matter, homeopathy and herbalism etc. It is healthy to be skeptical, but there is a danger of skeptic thought becoming septic thought if it fails to reason with an open mind and allow for progress. Any doctor who fails to open their mind to the information such as is presented in this book is missing the opportunity to fulfill their true role as healers of the sick. There is without doubt a conspiracy of willful ignorance amongst the cult of Western medicine, as even scientifically verified proof of the healing power of channeled energy has been ignored by the majority of practitioners. One smokescreen which is constantly employed by the major drug companies is the regular promise that they are currently working on a new form of treatment which could soon revolutionize the treatment of. Such stories are picked up by the press and T.V. science programs with great fervor. They are nearly always described in terms of miracle cure and point out that adequate funding is necessary for the fulfillment of the prophecy in another 2 or 3 years' time. However, when 2 or 3 years' time finally arrives, we have all conveniently forgotten about the promised miracle drug whilst anxiously awaiting the fulfillment of yet further promises of drugs which are hoped will one day prove to be the end of yet another terrible disease. And this is the industry which denigrates the field of natural health for taking advantage of the sick and for so cruelly promising fake cures and providing false hope. The obvious lesson here is that to disguise your own sins you must accuse your enemies of them, and to always do it before your enemy has a chance to formulate their defense. Mud usually sticks to the one it first lands upon. This a political trick which has been used to devastating effect by the key manipulators of this century in all areas and has been used to shift public opinion in favor of some of the greatest atrocities ever committed. The elite via chemopharmaceutical companies and food and water production services penetrate all areas of healthcare and use it to promote and execute their policies of population control, mind control and divide and rule, whilst making vast sums of money into the bargain. Vivisection, far more than an animal rights issue. This section is intended to be read in order that the sinister implications of animal experiments upon the whole of mankind are thoroughly understood. I am aware, from personal experience of street campaigning for animal rights issues, that many people who care passionately about animals find it simply too distressing to see or read any form of evidence to this effect. Consequently, I have chosen not to give practical details about individual animal experiments in the coming discourse. Instead, I will focus upon the scientific fraud perpetrated by vivisectors and how their warped ethos that vivisection is a valuable scientific tool has corrupted the progress of medicine and upset the delicate balance of the minds of millions worldwide. I seek to show how vivisection is an integral part of the manipulation of society, the vivisectors themselves being amongst the most completely manipulated of all, by the very same consciousness and indeed the very same people I have already discussed. Nothing is worse than vivisection. No other single factor causes more pain, distress and death to humans and animals. Nor is there any less scientific or ethical method of research currently being employed in industry or educational establishments anywhere in the world. Unless you have read the books and seen the video footage which I and thousands of other anti-vivisection campaigners have been required to endure, nothing in your imagination can paint for you anything like the true picture of the hell of animal experiments. In fact, if you can conjure up the most heinous spectacle of abuse within your mind, be assured that this is precisely what is being done today, but probably much worse, around the world in schools, universities and research labs owned by private companies, and then some. It is being done with our money, and in order to provide huge mega-wealthy pharmaceutical companies with staggering profit and as an excuse to provide jobs for vivisectors. It is also perpetuated to ensure that mankind never becomes learned about the true nature, cause and cure of disease. 2,000 animals per minute die as a result of gruesome experiments, that is 250 million per year. Approximately 3.5 million per year in Great Britain alone. Over 75% of these experiments are done without anesthetics, and when they are often inadequately applied. Most experiments are done with public money. 0.2% of the animals used are for the testing of cosmetics. In Britain there are merely 19 Home Office inspectors to cover 20,000 licensed vivisectors. The practice of animal experimentation has been the mainstay of medical and biological research since the early 1800s, even though it has brought about not one major breakthrough in medical science. And yet, every medical student, in order to pass his or her exam and advance in their chosen career, must quote the results of animal experiments. How can respect for life, compassion and empathy be taught to and nurtured in our doctors through a practice which necessitates the ignorance of pain, suffering, anxiety, terror and death, as is the case with the training process of U.S. doctors who regularly dissect live animals as part of their training? The answer is simple: it can't. The animal experimenters are the cornerstone of the highly corrupt and manipulative pharmaceutical industry. These are a pseudoscientific fraternity who earn vast amounts of money for their employers by performing unbelievably barbaric experiments which can be used to falsely substantiate claims that their drugs are safe for human use. Dr. James D. Gallagher, Director of Research of Lederle Laboratories in the Journal of the American Medical Association, March 14, 1964 stated. Animal studies are done for legal reasons and not for scientific reasons. The predictive value for such studies for man is meaningless, which means our research may be meaningless. There is no British or European law which states that new drugs, chemicals or cosmetics must be tested on animals. However, animal testing ensures that vivisectors get the results they want in order to sell their dangerous chemicals to an unwary public. In numerous legal trials of drug companies who have caused fatalities and injuries, the most effective defense which has been used time and again is that all of the usual and required testing had been done to establish the safety of the drug in question. A standpoint which most legal authorities are not qualified to dispute. Indeed, the experts upon whom they call for advice in such matters are invariably members of other drug companies or drug-sponsored agencies and therefore the animal testing fraternity. Animal experiments have been cited in many court battles over drugs damages claims and have been used both to defend the idea that such disasters were unforeseen because adequate testing had been employed, but have also been successfully used, as in the thalidomide case in December 1970, to admonish the drug company, in this case Chemi Grunenthal, who testified that animal tests could never be conclusive for humans. The very idea that a test or operation done on an animal will show results which are directly translatable to humans is plainly ridiculous. As has been stated by some of the greatest and most influential physicians in medical history, the anatomy, physiology and psychology of animals is entirely different to our own in many ways, and this difference is further exaggerated in the case of animals bred for and or housed in laboratories. This can be plainly illustrated in many ways, here are just a few. The LD50, lethal dose 50%, test, which is the standard toxicity technique used to establish how much of a chemical toxin is required to kill half of a number of animals. These animals are specifically bred to be exactly identical in every way, that is genetically and physically they are the same size and weight. And yet, an equivalent dose of a toxin, in equal quantity and strength will succeed in killing merely half of the batch whilst leaving half to suffer varying degrees of disablement. These results are then haphazardly translated to give the figure for safe and fatal levels. For humans, there are 12 different methods which determine statistically the safety of chemicals for humans from animal experiments. These may disagree by up to a factor of 4. It is accepted that animal tests are successful in identifying cancer-causing agents in only 37% of cases. This means, in effect, that the results of the tests are more times wrong than right and are significantly statistically worse than tossing a coin. As stated by Hans Reusch in The Naked Empress or The Great Medical Fraud, 2 grams of scopolamine kill a human being, but dogs and cats can stand 100 times higher dosages. A single aminotyphyl mushroom can wipe out a whole human family, but is health food for the rabbit, one of the favorite laboratory animals. A porcupine can eat 1 lump without discomfort as much opium as a human addict smokes in 2 weeks, and wash it down with as much prussic acid to poison a regiment of soldiers. The sheep can swallow enormous quantities of arsenic, once the murderer's favorite poison. Morphine, which calms and anesthetizes man, causes maniacal excitement in cats and mice. On the other hand, our sweet almond can kill foxes, our common parsley is poisonous to parrots, and a revered penicillin strikes another favorite laboratory animal dead, the guinea pig. It is fortunate for many that penicillin was never tested on guinea pigs at the outset, where it would have immediately been discarded as dangerous. And if you want to prove that vitamin C is useless, withhold it from the diet of dogs, which produce vitamin C in the gut. Moreover, the whole discipline of surgery and